Hi guys, I hope the audio is coming fine. So I have absolutely no idea if anyone will join this live stream or not because I announced it just 45 minutes back and it's a Sunday night and it's just 9 p.m. Everyone's probably out partying. But regardless, I had to do it right now only because we are about 20 pages short of the ending of the introduction to Sri Vigyan Bhairav Tantra. Now, we ended it yesterday abruptly in the middle of the introduction only. It's not middle really, but it's a 91 page introduction and we have done 70 pages, so only 21 pages remain. So unless we do it right now or I do it right now, the flow will get cut and I'll forget everything, and I need to really grasp the concept. So I have to do it right now. I hope some people join. And luckily the introduction was divided into different sub chapters, so we ended at a nice sub chapter and now we will resume from a different sub chapter after we have done a bit of a recap until some people join. So let's hope some people join.
गिरिनन्दिनि नन्दितमेदिनि विश्वविनोदिनि नन्दिनुते गिरिवरविन्द्यशिरोदिनि वासिनि विष्णुविलासिनि जिष्णुनुते भगवति हेशितिकण्ठकुटुम्बिनि भूरि कुटुम्बिनि भूरि कृते जय जय हे महिषासुरमर्दिनि रम्यकपर्दिनि शैलसुते वर्षिणि दुर्धरदर्शिनि दुर्मुखमर्षिणि हर्षरते त्रिभुवनपोषिणि शङ्करतोषिणि किल्बिषमोषिणि घोषरते जनुजनि रोषिणि दिथिषुकरोषिणि दुर्मथतोषिणि सिन्धुषुते जय जय हे महिषासुरमर्दिनि रम्यकपर्दिनि शैलसुते जय जय महिषासुरमर्दिनि रम्यकपर्दिनि शैलसुते जय जय हे महिषासुरमर्दिनि रम्यकपर्दिनि शैलसुते.
Hi guys. So 4 people have joined. This is really fun. It's a Sunday night. Hi Shravya. Hi Audin. Namaskar. Audinda. Thank you for joining. Uttishta Bharata and Maximus. Okay, 6 people have joined. This is fascinating. So I'll just read the last paragraph that we discussed. It was the part of a subchapter called rewiring the brain. तो उसमें लास्ट सब पैराग्राफ था कि there are billions of electromagnetic circuits in the brain, and as they are rewired and switched on, they illumine everything on their path from one part of the brain to the other. In this way, many visions and experiences arise. However, you have to remember that these things are just part of the psychic scenery which lies along the way. They are not the ultimate destination. These experiences are not the destination. Similarly, when you travel from one place to another, you see many things on the way, but you do not stop until you reach the point you had set out for. So I'd really encourage people buy this book. This is a beautifully produced book as well. Nice shiny covered illustration, very good paper material, etc. Buy this book so that you all can read the entire book and listen to the introduction once again while reading the book yourself. Okay. It's written by Swami Satyasangananda Saraswati, and really hope you all check out those who have missed. Really check out our last night's live stream as well. It was a 4.5 hour long live stream discussing the first 70 pages of the introduction. The rest of the book is not going to be discussed because it's prohibited in the book. Recap. Don't be smooth brain. RSB. Yeah, early because I want to discuss Brahma Puran in the nighttime live stream, and here only 21 pages are left, so there's no point doing that in the 12 a.m. live stream. So now this subchapter is called Witnessing Attitude. Let's see. As the practice of dharana progresses, you will see many things within you. But these visions do not come under the category of spiritual experience. They belong to the realm of the psyche and are known as psychic experiences. When these begin to manifest, you will know that the brain circuits and pathways for inner illumination are being formed, and you should persist in your efforts. So that is when you get the encouragement, and you get the surety that yes, we are on the right path, and keep going. Do not get carried away or mistake psychic experiences for the real stuff. It is easy to do that because sometimes these visions are so attractive and breathtaking. But you must continue with the practice of dharana on your symbol despite these inner experiences, just as you would continue on any journey despite whatever you may see on the way, because you have to reach your destination. For this reason, the attitude of a witness or sakshi bhava should be developed from the very start, so that you do not lose yourself in the inner experiences. The word sakshi means witness. This attitude is emphasized in the practices of yoga and tantra as a means to maintain the awareness. In order to develop the witnessing attitude, sakshi bhava, you have to divide your awareness in order to develop that attitude. While on one part, while one part is doing that practice, another part is watching you do the practice and witnessing all that you are experiencing. In this way, your experiences become subjective as well as objective. This witnessing attitude is very important and will help you progress in sadhana. If you get immersed and lost in every experience, your progress will be delayed or obstructed, and in some cases, lost altogether. But if you can become a witness to the experiences you are having, this will not happen. You will be able to rise above them easily and return to the symbol of dharana. Yeah, LSD experiences of Joe Rogan. Ha, Abhay, yes. Because in the nighttime 12 a.m. Live stream, we will do Brahma Puran. Dual awareness. This witnessing principle in dharana leads to the development of dual awareness. This is an extremely difficult state to attain and also to maintain. Here, the awareness observes the external as well as the internal events simultaneously and with the same clarity of perception. So, although one sees the world outside with the eyes open, at the same time, the gaze is also turned inwards and one also experiences everything going on within in the same manner. Dual awareness can also be extended to perceive different dimensions of consciousness simultaneously and eventually leads to expansion of consciousness at all levels. Swami Satyananda is the guru of the woman who has translated this. Swami Satyananda has emphasized in his teachings that every serious practitioner of meditation should develop the ability to split the awareness in this way, having total control over both inner and outer experience. He has also said that to lose awareness of the outer and to immerse oneself in the inner experience is not the aim of the meditation. Dhyana or meditation is homogeneous awareness. This indicates that every kind of experience is included in the state of dhyana. Therefore, exclusion of the outer experience and development of the inner dimension only does not result in a okay. Therefore, exclusion of the outer experience and development of the inner dimension only does not result in a total or homogeneous awareness. If omnipresence, omnipotence, and omniscience are the attributes of the supreme reality, then that would include the experience of all realms, not just the outer or the inner. By merging with that reality in the state of dhyana, the practitioner acquires those attributes and gains complete knowledge of both inner and outer simultaneously. Then, dharana becomes the means to go deep within oneself while still retaining the outer awareness of the symbol. Good evening, Rohan. Yes. Experience of Bhairava. Bhairava is one such state that the consciousness passes through during the journey from the outer to the inner experience. It is that state which just precedes the experience of the universal consciousness or Shiva. You may have noticed that all Shiva temples have a Bhairava shrine at the entrance, where one worships first before worshipping Shiva. This is a very subtle way of allegorizing this very secret as well as the sacred truth. Bhairava is known as the security officer of Lord Shiva, who screens everyone about to enter his domain. Unless you pass through Bhairava's infrared check, you cannot enter that zone of pure consciousness. You first have to pay obeisance to Bhairava and then to Shiva. At the ancient city of Ujjain, where the famous Jyotirlinga known as Mahakaleshwar is enshrined, there is also a famous Bhairava temple at the outskirts where worship is done for Kala Bhairava. There is a curious story about this shrine. The deity here is appeased by liquor, which he downs by the gallons and always appears intoxicated. During the British rule, the authorities dismissed this as a hoax and had the shrine excavated to check if there was a secret channel through which the liquor flowed when it was poured into the mouth of the deity. But they found nothing, and even today devotees flock there to offer alcohol to Bhairava, which he consumes and then grants their wishes. Instead of dismissing this custom as superstition, one may discover exactly what it indicates to the devout and faithful if one ponders over it deeply. Exactly what we are trying to do. Of course, logic and reason tell us there is no need to offer alcohol to a statue made of stone or clay. However, if we understand Bhairava as a state of intoxicated bliss, where the individual consciousness has realized its true identity and experiences intense longing to unite with the supreme consciousness of which it is an intimate part, then this ritual takes on a very significant meaning. The word Bhairava is derived from the Sanskrit word Rudanti, meaning crying, wailing, or howling. Rudra is also an epithet of Shiva and signifies yet another state of consciousness derived from the same word. Some scholars have interpreted the word Bhairava as creation, sustenance, and withdrawal. They are not entirely wrong because it represents that state where the consciousness is very close to the experience of the Creator, in whom these three qualities are inherent. What are the three qualities? Creation, sustenance, and withdrawal. However, in the state of Bhairava, individual consciousness is still at the threshold, although it realizes its proximity or closeness to the universal consciousness. So, it lets out a loud wail or howl, similar to the howling of a dog pining for his mate. This is why the vehicle of Bhairava is a dog. That blood curdling sound of a dog howling into the night is the wail emitted on the subtle and causal plane by the consciousness that is pining for union with its source. It is a very intense psycho emotional state. Perhaps it is not a coincidence that the Jiva's first action on gaining entry into the world is to let out a loud wail, a loud crying. When a baby is born, first thing it does is it cries. This happens at the exact moment when the ties with the cosmic prana are physically severed by cutting off the umbilical cord. As he breathes his first individual breath, he too perceives this separation and craves for union. There are 8 Bhairavas, each of which denotes a state of consciousness. They are Batuka, meaning tight, little, Kala, meaning time in the absolute sense or eternity, Shanta, meaning tranquil, Vijnana, meaning essential truth, and so on. Out of these, Vigyan Bhairava is the state where the knowledge that is special and sacred begins to flow freely and spontaneously into the individual consciousness, thus signifying that it is united and connected with the cosmic consciousness, which is the source of all knowledge. Bhairava is a state of total and complete surrender. This manifestation, although a trifle fearful due to the psychic sounds of wailing, howling, and crying that are heard by the causal body, is extremely benevolent and full of radiant knowledge. This is why surrender is regarded as the highest quality in a spiritual aspirant. In the state of surrender, there is very high receptivity and knowledge is received without any obstruction or disturbance. Now, a subchapter begins. It's called 4 Feet of Atma. Let's check some comments. Rohan, good job. Health is a good priority to have. Plus, very tired, went to sleep early. नमस्कार, आज जल्दी आ गए. हाँ श्रेयस, because 12 बजे ब्रह्म पुराण करने का प्लान है. Spy has not realized stream is on, I guess. Yeah, I announced it really late. 4 feet of Atma. The consciousness has 4 feet, which are like the 4 fractions of a single coin. They are a unified and homogeneous part of the consciousness, not separate or broken. These 4 aspects are responsible for the different experiences of consciousness as it undergoes manifestation in the dimension of matter. These 4 fractions of consciousness exist in the microcosm as individual consciousness, and in the macrocosm in the larger narrative as cosmic consciousness, both of which can be experienced by each individual. The first stage of consciousness is known as Vaishvanara. In Bengali, we would pronounce it as Boishanor, whose sphere is the waking state or Jagrat, where the consciousness is associated with physical matter. Jagrat means awake to the world. Philosophically, however, it is a state of avidya. Jagrat is avidya, where we are in deep slumber because we identify with the material body and not with pure consciousness, which is the source of our existence. Vishwanara has awareness of the external objects and receives knowledge by means of its 7 limbs and 19 mouths, through which it enjoys and feeds on the gross objects, the physical objects. These limbs and mouths represent the lokas, tattvas, indriyas, pranas, and antahkarana, and they form the avenues of knowledge and experience. Virat is the cosmic counterpart of Vishwa, the individual consciousness. The sum total of Vishwa is Virat. The word Virat literally means enormous, and rightly so, because in this state, the consciousness is experienced as the sum total of all that exists. Okay, in the state of Virat, the consciousness is experienced as the sum total of all that exists. Only something very enormous can contain the totality of the gross universe, which includes humans, vegetables, minerals, rivers, oceans, mountains, sun, moon, stars, galaxies, planets, comets, earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Ether is Akasha, guys. Sky is not Akasha. Whatever exists in one's own body also exists in the universe. The whole universe is the body of Virat. Your physical body is included in Virat, as are those of all others. The microcosm as well as the macrocosm is the Virat. This experience is described in chapter 11 of the Bhagavad Gita, where Arjuna requests Lord Krishna to assume his Virat form on the battlefield. Arjuna saw the magnificent sight of everything that has been created or yet to be created, emerging and being absorbed in Virat. Yeah, Nina, stream is quite early today because at the 12 a.m. Stream in India, I'll do Brahma Puran. And this is only 20 pages left, so I decided to finish this off early. और flow में भी रह पाएंगे ना, नहीं तो भूल जाएंगे कल क्या डिस्कस हुआ. The second stage of consciousness is known as Tejas, whose sphere is the dreaming state or Swapna, where the consciousness is associated with the internal objects perceived through its 7 limbs and 19 mouths. It enjoys the subtle objects, feeding on the leftover remnants from the waking state, that Jagrat state. The word Tejas means bright, and Tejas is the essence of light through which it illumines the subtle objects. Just as Virat is one with Vishwa, so also the cosmic counterpart of Tejas is Hiranyagarbha, the cosmic womb, which holds the subtle impressions of the entire creation that is contained in Virat. Hiranyagarbha is therefore the sum total of all subtle existence. In this sense, it is the cosmic mind. The individual mind is linked to its cosmic mind through the subtle body. The account of this link, the mind, the account of this link, the mind, is a very powerful substance, and the range of its attributes is enormous. Thought is an expression of the mind which translates itself into speech and action. Thought, speech, and action generate emotions such as happiness or unhappiness, and also give rise to other attributes such as clarity of thinking, accurate perception, proper understanding, right action, and so on. Every thought has weight, color, shape, smell, size, quality, and momentum. Thoughts are not a static substance. Once they come into existence, they begin to move outwards as vibrations. They keep moving, creating ripples wherever they go, influencing and affecting others and connecting you with them, not on the conscious plane, but on the unconscious plane. In fact, you may never realize how deeply you are connected with others until you study the science of the mind. The individual mind is an evolute of Mahat, the cosmic intelligence, which is an evolute of Shiva, the pure cosmic consciousness. During the process of evolution, The individual mind manifests in five stages. In the first, where it is in close proximity to supreme intelligence, it manifests as niruddha, total cessation or perfect control. In the second, it becomes ekagrata or one pointed but not totally controlled. From one point, from one pointed, it becomes vikshipta, oscillating between steadiness and distraction. From oscillating, it becomes kshipta or totally dissipated. And from there, it enters the last phase of mudha, which is dull and forgetful. The third state of consciousness is pragya or intuitive knowledge, whose sphere is nidra or deep sleep. Pragya enjoys pure bliss, where there is no thought, desire, or dream. In this state, mind and ego, subject and object, are absent, but there is avidya, the veil of ignorance. For in deep sleep, because in deep sleep, the mind involutes into its cause, mula jnana, or the root of non awareness, mula jnana. This veil of ignorance prevents the individual consciousness from knowing its source, and unless this veil is pierced through, avidya remains. Pragya is the causal body and the experiencer of bliss in deeper sleep, in deep sleep. Its cosmic counterpart is Ishvara, which means non destructible or permanent reality and represents the sum total of all the causal bodies. Your causal body is included in Ishvara, as are the causal bodies of others. Although Pragya is associated with Avidya, it is still described as a powerful, very powerful state where the source of knowledge is neither the senses nor the remnants of past impressions, but the cosmic storehouse. Here, everything is stored, everything is stored that has come into existence or is waiting to come into existence, that has been destroyed and consumed, or is waiting to be destroyed and consumed, that has been spoken or is waiting to be spoken, that has happened or is waiting to happen. It is the mythical Pandora's box or the skeleton in the closet. Prior to this state, the source of knowledge was controlled by the individual mind, discriminated by the intellect, and identified by the ego. But now, the source of knowledge is beyond the gambit of the individual mind in the realm of intuition, thus, it is called pragya. This form of knowledge is derived from a cosmic source and is very powerful. Some of the experiences of pragya can be some of the experiences of pragya can be the mind can be mind blowing and difficult to handle. Moreover, as the individual faculties of mind, ego, intellect are absent, one has no control over those experiences. Therefore, they can be completely overwhelming and override the normal Jagrat awareness, where one is guided by instinct and intellect, but not by intuition. Instinct and intellect, not intuition. So it may completely override and overwhelm the normal Jagrat awareness. One who has entered the state of pragya consciously may appear strange and abnormal to others, as he will act on the knowledge he is receiving from the causal plane, which corresponds with Ishvara, the sphere where all the causal bodies are stored. Today, Ishvara is translated as God, but in fact, Ishvara is that consciousness which is cosmic in nature and contains the cosmic storehouse of all karmas, samskaras, and past impressions. Your karmas are also stored there in much the same way that information is stored on a supercomputer. Your file and so doc would be stored in it, and at the time of birth, the individual soul or jiva collects all the data from there and is born on the physical plane as embodied matter. The fourth state is Turiya, where the individual consciousness merges with the cosmic consciousness. And for those who have missed yesterday's live stream about the first part of the introduction to Sri Vigyan Bhairava, do check it out because we discussed some fascinating things while learning of this term called Turiya. Transcendence is experienced in this state because the consciousness goes beyond matter and becomes liberated from its clutches. Here, the only source of knowledge is knowledge itself. For Turiya is pure, untainted jnana, which is absolute and cosmic in nature. The sphere of Turiya is the pure Atman, or that which pervades everything. Today, the Atman is translated as soul, but in fact, it means all pervading, that which exists everywhere in all spheres of time and space and beyond as well. So, that is Atman. It is neither external nor internal awareness, neither is it absence nor presence of awareness. It is the experience of the sum total of all that exists, both manifest and unmanifest, in its most sublime and refined state. This experience is indefinable, unthinkable, unknowable, and can never be experienced by the ego, so say the Upanishads. It is a state of awareness which is attained spontaneously and not by any practice. Dharana and dhyana lead to savikalpa samadhi, the third state of consciousness, which is pragya, and leave you at the threshold of the fourth. They cannot unlock the door to Turiya, but they bring you to the exact point where you get a glimpse of that fourth door, even if it is closed. When Savikalpa Samadhi occurs, a few chinks of light sometimes escape from behind that closed door, giving a glimpse of what lies beyond. But that awareness is still fragmented and broken. It is not unified and continuous. Only in Turiya, with the dawning of Nirvikalpa Samadhi, does the unified and effulgent experience become total, when subject and object merge completely into the one supreme consciousness. Now, a subchapter is beginning called Negotiating the Mega Merger. Let me have a sip of water before that and check some comments. Shreyash, yes, सिर्फ इंट्रोडक्शन ही डिस्कस होगा. মূলবিদ্যা বলে আমাদের সম্প্রদায়তে স্মার্ত কেবল কেবলদ্বৈত বেদান্ত অবশ্য দক্ষিণাচারা তন্ত্র পথে চলে. শ্রীনিবাস রামানুজন এই প্রজ্ঞা অবস্থাতে যেতে পারতেন মা লক্ষ্মীর উপাসনা দ্বারা. আচ্ছা, there is a little nuance. Even after knowing the condition, B.R. Ambedkar was silent about this for a certain period of time. Yes, he was silent, but वही 1946 में उसने उन्होंने वो बुक लिख दिया, पार्टीशन और क्या नाम था, पाकिस्तान और पार्टीशन ऑफ इंडिया. So Super Saiyan 3 is not enough then. Okay, and just to digress a little to a fun anecdote, since I do not watch anime, I used to pronounce it as Super Saiyan until I think 1 year back, and a friend who watches a lot of anime corrected me on this. Okay, yeah, Pakistan or partition of India. Negotiating the mega merger. Vigyan Bhairav consciousness is Savikalpa Samadhi and Shiva consciousness is Nirvikalpa Samadhi. All the practices of Vigyan Bhairav Tantra bring you up to the experience of Savikalpa Samadhi. Beyond that, there is no practice by which you can attain the highest state of Shiva consciousness. When Savikalpa Samadhi is broken, all you have to do is continue the practice of dharana. Gradually, okay, when Savikalpa Samadhi is broken, all you have to do is continue the practice of dharana. Gradually, Nirvikalpa will happen by itself as Savikalpa becomes steady for extended periods of time. Through prolonged periods of Savikalpa Samadhi, the awareness makes a quantum leap which propels it out of the pull of gravity into a different dimension altogether. In that dimension, the electromagnetic pull of the supreme awareness is so strong that it draws the individual consciousness into its bosom, where they unite and become one. Vigyan Bhairava is that state where special knowledge, which is untainted and pure, is assessed for the first time. That is why this book is titled Vigyan Bhairava. It could have been called Gyan Bhairava instead of Vigyan Bhairava, because Gyan also means knowledge. However, what these practices in Vijnana Bhairava Tantra reveal is not just knowledge, but specialized and absolute knowledge, which is so pure that the only other name for it is truth with capital T. Up to this state, the aspirant can subject his experiences to verification, scrutiny, and intense examination, for the subject object awareness is still present, because the subject object awareness is still present. Thus, this knowledge is known as Vigyan Bhairava because it has been scrutinized. After this stage, however, the subject and object merge and themselves become the experience. So there is no possibility of scrutiny, for because who will scrutinize whom? As the experiencer and the experience have collaborated to form the biggest merger of all times. In modern language, it can be called the mega merger. Vijnana is Bhairava, and both are identical. They are one in nature. V is Shakti and Jnana is Shiva or Bhairava. Wow. So, Indians, those who know the Indian languages, our term for science, even that is based on our faith system and our deities and gods and goddesses. Shakti and Shiva make up Vigyan, science. So, by attaining the state of Vijnana, one can know Bhairava. What has been called Vijnana Bhairava consciousness in Tantra is the equivalent of Pragya and Ishvara in the Upanishadic analysis of consciousness. Both have been described as the state of bliss, where there is no mind and no ego, but traces of avidya still remain. So, although the supreme reality is known and perceived, the awareness is still negotiating the collaboration, and the final stages are yet to be worked out before the mega merger takes place. This experience belongs to the causal body where all information is stored in coded form as archetypes. These archetypes reveal themselves in the form of experiences, both abstract and tangible. For instance, you may see someone in your room whom others present with you cannot see. Swami Satyasangananda has described his personal experience of this stage as follows. While meditating in his room at Munger, he suddenly saw a snake lying on the floor, and as he rose to protect himself, it vanished into thin air. On another occasion, a lady with a large dot on her forehead appeared at his window and stood there staring at him, and each time he went to close the window, she would disappear. This happened so many times that he had to permanently block the window in order to proceed with his meditation. This signifies that the aspirant develops the psychic powers which manifest matter in the state of Savikalpa Samadhi. The mind becomes cosmic and assumes the form of a kalpavriksha or wish fulfilling tree. Whatever one thinks at that time happens. Thus, although there is still avidya, the Upanishads describe this as a state when the mind assumes immense power. This is an attribute or quality of Ishvara, the name given to this state of consciousness. Quantum leap. Vigyan Bhairava Tantra teaches the scientific principles of Tantra, which gather the scattered waves emanating from the mind and fix them at one point. This in turn leads to the experience of Bhairava consciousness, where you are just about to enter the domain of the ultimate reality. When the train is about to pull into your final destination, you cannot see the place as you have not yet reached there, but you begin to get an idea about it from the smells, sounds, air, and vibrations that emanate from the approaching station. In the same way, when you experience the state of consciousness known as Bhairava, the attributes of Shiva begin to show up and surround you from all sides. But you are not yet face to face with him. It is a moment of intense excitement, anticipation, and longing. This agony of separation is similar to two lovers who are about to meet after a long separation, but it is of the nature of bliss, not sorrow, of knowledge, not ignorance. Vijnana, by its name, implies that during this state of consciousness, the aspirant experiences a free flow of specialized and pure knowledge within. However, despite access to the supreme knowledge, still the highest reality has not been experienced in its totality. In philosophical terms, it is said that this is on account of avidya or lack of knowledge. In technical terms, this is because of the fact that at this point, the consciousness is suspended in the twilight zone where dawn has set in, but the night has not fully gone. From this point, the consciousness is within the purview of darkness as well as light. On one side, it views matter, and on the other side, it views spirit. Suffice it to say that as the consciousness is not fully rid of its material shell, it is still within the gravitational pull that surrounds the physical body. In order to get out of that circuit, it will have to take a leap of faith into the unknown to enter the range of influence created by the most subtle, pure, and effulgent consciousness. What this actually means is that in order to transcend matter, you have to transcend gravity. It is gravity that holds matter together and pulls the awareness down to the material level. Try to imagine the scenario if one day, while sitting in the practice of dharana, your mind were to attain such intense concentration that dhyana occurred and then you entered samadhi. Transcending gravity momentarily, your consciousness would leave the body and become all that moment your okay all seeing. Transcending gravity momentarily, your consciousness would leave the body and become all pervasive, all knowing, all seeing, and all experiencing. At that moment, your physical body might begin to rise into the air and float. Depending on your prowess, you may be fully alert or enter into a trance like state. If the awareness is trained in dharana, it will remain alert and follow the correct path on its flight without being diverted or lost. At the point when you emerge from the pull of gravity, finding the correct spandan or vibration is very important. Your consciousness has left its cage and is about to take flight. What path should it follow? And who or what will guide it at that time? Will it turn back or will it go forward at the right path? Apart from dharana, the only other factor that can guide the consciousness at this stage is the Guru's grace. That is why the spiritual master is known as Guru, because he dispels the darkness by steering the disciple's consciousness on the narrow path which leads to the light. Now, a subchapter begins called Classification of Practices in Vigyan Bhairava Tantra. ওকে, লেটস টেক সাম কমেন্টস। বলা হয় দাদা অভিনব গুপ্তা এই বিজ্ঞান ভৈরব তন্ত্রের উপর টিকা লিখেছিলেন, কিন্তু আজ আর সেই বইটি নেই। হ্যাঁ, ওটা তো নালন্দায় ভোগে চলে গেছে। He couldn't have written about Mandal in 1946, but Mandal resigned in 1950. I'm talking about 1950. At that time, he didn't speak about Jogendranath Mandal's return in India because he died in 1950, or did he die in 1956? But he should have, yes. I think he was too busy with other things because he was criticizing Congress even harshly by then, didn't he? Oh, Dada, you'll love to read Ishvara Pratyabhagya Karika of Utpala Deva since you will be studying Vigyan Bhairav Tantra. I see. Wait. Okay. Classification of practices in Vigyan Bhairav Tantra. Having understood the ultimate goal, Vigyan Bhairav Tantra tells us that the same mind which functions in everyday life is transformed through the practice of dharana into the most heightened state of awareness. Let us now take another look at the general modes of practice it prescribes to achieve this task of enlightenment. These methods or upayas can be classified as sthula, sukshma, and karana. The sthula upayas are physical in nature and belong to the jagrat state. They include those methods that relate to the breath, such as pranayama, and to the nadis, such as mudras. The sukshma upayas are subtle in nature and belong to the swapna state. They include methods of dharana that relate to the psyche, such as japa, trataka, trataka or trataka, and concentration on a symbol. I've never heard this word. This does not have a Bengali equivalent as well. Okay, so Sukshma Upayas are subtle in nature and belong to the Swapna state, which include methods of dharana that relate to the psyche, such as japa, trataka, and concentration on a symbol. The Karana Upayas are abstract in nature and belong to the Sushupti stage. They include those methods that relate to the causal body, such as dharana on ideas, emotions, thoughts, and feelings. As stated earlier, there is no technique or upaya to reach Turiya. It just happens spontaneously by itself at a certain moment in time. Although the practices have been classified, they have not been graded. Each practice is complete in itself and can lead you to that heightened state of awareness. The practices do not depend on each other to progress towards that awareness. The Sthula Upayas are no less potent and effective in achieving that experience than the Sukshma or Karana. They have been classified so that the aspirant may choose the practice suited to his temperament or swabhava. If his consciousness is in Jagrat awareness, he should choose the Sthula Sadhana. If his consciousness is in Swapna, he should choose the Sukshma sadhanas, and if it is in Sushupti, he should choose the sadhanas that influence the Karana Sharira, Sthula Upayas, methods relating to breath, etc. Okay. Only one who knows this science and has an understanding of the inner mind can assess the level where the consciousness is functioning. Therefore, it is mandatory that these practices are chosen and performed under the direction of an adept or guru who has mastered this path of Tantra. Although certain practices are termed sthula, they should not be rejected as inferior because they can take the aspirant to the sukshma and karana awareness quite effectively. So one should not choose the karana practices over the sukshma or sthula practices with the idea that these will give the experience faster. The correct upaya is that which one is spontaneously comfortable with and which totally absorbs the mind so that concentration occurs without much effort and is not broken time and again. Dharana is not a sthula sadhana. It actually comes under the category of karana sadhana because its area of influence spreads over three realms: physical, subtle, and causal. Again, sthula, sukshma, and karana. So, karana sadhana, karana sadhana's influence covers all three of them: sthula, karana, and sukshma. Dharana is the bridge by which the sadhaka crosses from the outer to the inner realm. Therefore, it is important to perfect this practice before proceeding further, as the path becomes more difficult to follow in the subtler dimensions, and the abysses into which one can fall are deep and unknown. The common underlying factor in all the practices of Vigyan Bhairav Tantra is your own awareness, which must be directed towards one single object to the exclusion of all else. In each practice, your awareness must be directed, only the object differs. The objects specified in different practices range from prana and breath to matrika and mantra, as well as nada and chakras. If these do not suit you, there is another whole range of practices that directs your awareness to emotions and feelings of pain and pleasure. Then again, there is a range of abstract dharanas on ideas and thoughts, and yet another range of even more abstract dharanas on shunya, void, emptiness, and stillness. Let me just underline this part. So, the objects specified in different practices range from prana and breath, matrika or mantra, as well as nada and chakras. The other option is range of practices that direct you to awareness to emotions and feelings of pain and pleasure. And then there's the abstract, another range of abstract dharanas on ideas and thoughts, and another range of more abstract dharanas on shunya, void, emptiness, and stillness. Vigyan Bhairava Tantra says that it is possible to reach the most heightened state of consciousness by directing your total awareness, not fragmented awareness, to any of these points. Logically, this ought to be true because the supreme awareness is all pervading. So it should be everywhere and we can discover it anywhere. Vedanta says Brahman is everywhere, in the manifest and unmanifest too. In that case, every thought, idea, and feeling, as well as everything seen and unseen, should have Brahman as its source and destination. Tantra also advocates the same idea. In theory, Shiva, the supreme consciousness, is omnipresent and pervades every atom, molecule, and cell of all beings. The phrase in Hindi is Kan Kan Me Bhagwan. Vijnana Bhairava Tantra says that if you focus your full awareness on any point, you will discover the power residing within it. That power is energy or Shakti, which is none other than Shiva. Shiva is Shaktiman, the holder of Shakti. How can the holder of Shakti be different from Shakti? There is nothing in this world or out of it that is made up of Shiva or consciousness alone. Wherever there is consciousness, there is energy. They are inseparable, Shakti and Shiva. If you hold love in your mind, you become love. And it can be said that you are love. Or if you hold greed or hatred, you become that. Just as these feelings pervade you, in the same way, Shakti pervades Shiva and vice versa. Even when they separate in order to manifest matter, they still remain as one, they still remain as one at the cosmic level. Shakti is that principle of or phenomenon by which the consciousness of Shiva can be known. Okay? Shakti is the principle or phenomenon by which the consciousness of Shiva can be known. Without Shakti, Shiva remains inert, inactive, and unseen. The practices of dharana are aimed at awakening the power or energy within matter. They act as a mirror in which your consciousness can see its own splendor. Shakti or energy has the passport and visa to travel freely whenever and wherever the awareness is directed. Thus, by awakening Shakti, one becomes all pervasive and whatever one wishes is fulfilled. So, the practices of dharana are aimed at awakening the power or energy within matter. They act as a mirror in which your consciousness can see its own splendor. Shakti or energy has the passport and visa to travel freely whenever and wherever the awareness is directed. Thus, by awakening Shakti, one becomes all pervasive and whatever one wishes is fulfilled. And now, a subchapter begins: preparation for higher practices. Let me check some comments again. Okay, Mama Shakuni is saying Namaskar Bhanje, France के लौड़े लग गए, mlechas virus out of control. Yes, it's very good. और 14 जुलाई में मोदी जाएगा वहां पे, तो उसमें भी और थोड़ा हंगामा होगा थोड़ा, तो अच्छा है, भुगतने दो. Today stream is lagging sometimes. अच्छा, stream is lagging. Hey, can someone else also tell me if it's lagging or not? Wait. No, Wi-Fi is fine. Let someone else, can you confirm if it's lagging? Okay, Arjun is saying, I think Trataka means mantra and yantra. Trataka should mean that which protects, Trankari. Or, yeah, Trata. वहां से शायद आया होगा. Both mantra and yantra does that. So they are the Trata, Trataka. What's the purpose of all the stotram in our scriptures? Real life application? Arjun, tell him. Stotram, do you want the religious answer or the atheist answer? The religious answer would be that, or the faith based or the believer answer would be that that is your way of connecting with your God, your supreme consciousness, etc. And the atheist answer would be that that keeps you disciplined and makes you think about thinks about God, or think about something that is supremely powerful, supremely pure, etc. And every day at a fixed period of time, and that sets you up for the rest of the day, or whenever you do it after that, for greater productivity. At least that's the capitalist answer, application of mantras or stotrams. Okay, Harsh Ravi saying, Bhaiya, I'm planning to buy Vishnu Puran by Vivek Debroy. Should I go for it since I'm a Vaishnav? Yeah, regardless of you are Vaishnav or not, you should go for it. Vivek Debroy's translations are pretty I mean, it has been said that, yeah, everyone has, most people say that it's pretty correct translations. But more importantly, his translations are from the compilations created by the Bori, Bhandarkar Oriental Research Institute, who are extremely reputed. But it would still be better if you don't read it in English and you read it in your Indian mother tongue, and preferably by any publication from Gita Press, obviously. But if you can find the unabridged versions, if you can't find on the Gita Press website or on some station platform where Gita Press usually has their stores, then read the Vivek Debroy version only. Okay, Rohan is saying we have to worry about missionaries too for the kind of violence is still happening in Manipur. Right now it's all right, yeah. Shreyash is saying most of the basics are accepted by a lot of scriptures are as these come from Tantra. Yeah, that's what we learned yesterday. Stotram is for Archana of Devta. Rohan, চিন্তা নেই, মাস্টার চোখ দিচ্ছে বলে আমাদের মোটা ভাই. Why so early? Because at the 12 a.m. live stream, we will discuss Brahma Purana, and here in the part 2 of the introduction, only 20 pages are left. So I didn't want to discuss it in the 12 a.m. live stream. বডিকে নিয়ে অনেক সমস্যা রয়েছে. Some people keep saying it, but they don't debate body people, or no one challenges them, and there's no consensus about any significant problems with body. Even body will say that people who are saying that body কে নিয়ে সমস্যা রয়েছে, body will say that ওদেরকে নিয়ে সমস্যা রয়েছে. So we can't have a complete consensus on this, so I don't care about it anymore. Preparation for higher practices. It is significant to mention here that Swami Satyasangananda has taught all the practices of Vijnana Bhairav Tantra to his disciples and students as Hatha Yoga, Kriya Yoga, Kundalini Yoga, Laya Yoga, Nada Yoga, Raja Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Karma Yoga. The similarities will be highlighted whenever they occur in the practices. In fact, they are the very same practices that you may already be doing, but there is a subtle difference. That difference is in awareness. The ABCs that are learned in nursery school form the basis of all that is learned later in life. Without that foundation, you could never grasp the knowledge you receive in an MSc. In the same way, All that you have done until now has prepared you for the higher stages of practice. In teaching all the yogas, Swami Satyananda has prepared us for this promotion into the higher class of dharana and dhyana. Those who have sincerely followed the practices will find it easier to slip into the higher class than those who have not. Vijnana Bhairava Tantra is a higher class or stage in the sense that the practice of dharana uses mental faculties rather than physical ones. All of these experiences are self created in the absence of objects by conceptualizing forms, thoughts, ideas, feelings, emotions, sounds, and even the movement of the breath. In Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, the idea of form is transcended up to the point where you can recreate it within yourself in the absence of an object. In other words, you are allowed to dwell on a form as long as you have created it yourself without any external stimuli. This is a big leap which will crystallize the energies in a manner that no other practice can. Imposing the symbol on the body. Unlike asana, pranayama, mudra, and bandha, dharana is not a physical exercise. There is no physical movement during dharana. Steadiness of body is a prerequisite for any form of dharana. The faculties that you require for dharana are imagination and visualization. Even the dharanas which ask you to utilize practices of asana, pranayama, mudra, and uh, bandha. Is it supposed to be pronounced as badha? That would be the Bengali pronunciation, I guess, or bandha or bandha. So even the dharanas which ask you to utilize practices of asana, pranayama, mudra, and bandha are intended to be done on the mental plane. You have to imagine the entire process and superimpose it on your body. For example, in the second dharana in Shloka 25, when you are asked to restrain the pranas from their respective points of return, instead of actually performing the kriya, you are supposed to imagine it through the process of visualization and superimpose it on your body. In actual fact, nothing is happening, but you are imagining that it is happening. This process will lead you to a very vital discovery that you can influence your body and mind just through the process of imagination. And I will say that this is actually scientifically correct, because otherwise why would placebos work? Okay, this is the exact procedure of placebo medicines working. Gradually the mind will become so refined that you can perform all the sensory acts through its medium without actually having to go through the process. You can smell the scent of sandal, taste your favorite food, see the face of your beloved, touch the softness of silk, or even hear the sound of a flute. Those experiences that you normally have through the senses are accessible to you even without the presence of the sense objects, because muscle memory or memory. As explained earlier, this is the result of a mind that has expanded its boundaries. When this happens, you can completely alter the structure of your being. In other words, your DNA can be restructured and you can be born again in the same physical body as an illumined being. Moreover, as these practices are mental in nature, they can be done at any place and at any time, whenever you are not occupied. For example, you can practice when you are sitting in the park, riding on the train or bus, relaxing in your armchair, standing in a room full of people, waiting for your turn at the dentist, or sitting on your meditation mat in the perfect posture. Dharana can be practiced with the eyes open once you become proficient at turning the gaze inwards. In the course of your daily activities, you are often practicing dharana without your knowledge. There is an unknown process of consciousness that goes on subliminally, even when you are totally extroverted. You may have noticed that often while having a conversation, listening to music, or doing some work, for a split second, you are not there. If asked about it, you may not even be able to recall what happened in that split second. Onno monoshko in Bengali. This is because in that moment, your attention was pulled inwards without your conscious awareness. It touched that on which it was subliminally focused, and then again reverted back to the extroverted awareness that was presented before it happened. If you are attentive at such a moment, you can dive into an area that can reveal something to you. Artists are very proficient at diving deep within and bringing up some form of expertise which shows up as talent or genius in them. This subliminal process of dharana is an important stage in the process of growth and development of awareness, but it has to be trained and guided so that it remains within your voluntary control. Otherwise, it may result in talent or genius, but it will never culminate in spiritual ecstasy. Without mental training, these subliminal experiences will never take you to a greater height. Your awareness will simply remain at that level. Just as there is a known process or path of consciousness, there is an unknown one too. Dreams are one manifestation of that unknown process, but there are many others, such as thoughts, feelings, likes, dislikes, temperament, and tendencies. However, in these processes, the normal awareness has the upper hand and the subliminal awareness is subdued. When the subliminal awareness gains the upper hand in an untrained mind, problems may arise, such as erroneous or wrong perception, distorted outlook, faulty judgment, and even insanity. This is because the area of consciousness that the subliminal process covers is in touch with the consciousness. It is very hard to know, understand, or direct the consciousness, unconscious. A completely different set of rules applies there. It is neither the realm of logic and reason nor of emotion and feeling. It is the realm where everything is stored in codes and symbols which require interpretation. It is very hard to interpret these symbols through the rational mind. You need an intuitive mind for that. The mistake many aspirants make is to approach spiritual experience with logic and reason because they do not apply here. Now, a subchapter begins called Continuity of Consciousness. Let me check some comments again. Which will work in achieving those goals instead of making political party, which will only result in vote bank politics sooner or later. Very true. Well said. Without economy and finance, we'll never survive, and that's the point they kept on omitting. Yes, just I said we were the shapers of consciousness. How the fuck ours got shaped by Abrahamics? Because we were under attack. क्योंकि सी वी हैड सम नेगोशिएशन तो होना ही था ना. बाकियों का क्या हुआ? बाकी नॉन एब्राहमिक्स तो गायब हो गए. हम गायब नहीं हुए, मगर थोड़ा बहुत डिस्टॉर्ट हो गया इसीलिए. Mama Shakuni also they try to claim that they are the first Hindu party, but it was Ram Rajya Parishad of Karpatri Swami. I see. Or Hindu Mahasabha. Or Hindu Mahasabha is probably the predecessor to BJP, I guess. Ram Rajya Parishad or Parisang. Parishad, I think. Continuity of consciousness. Okay, yeah, but Ram Rajya Parishad is for birth based caste system, right? Continuity of consciousness. As consciousness evolves into the manifest world and assumes form and substance, it loses its continuity. This continuity of consciousness is the secret for attaining higher states of awareness. If you can stop the mental fluctuation and revive the experience of continuity of consciousness, then you will attain the goal you set out to achieve. It is as simple as that. You can have that experience here and now, this very moment, says Vijnana Bhairav Tantra, because you do not have to introduce any extraneous factor from outside. That unbroken, untainted, and pure stream of consciousness is already flowing within you, but you are unaware of it unaware of it because of the external and fragmented focus of the mind. The Srimad Devi Bhagavatam describes the abode of that supramental consciousness as surrounded by mountains, creeks, rivers. Okay, listen to this once again. The Srimad Devi Bhagavatam describes the abode of that supramental consciousness as surrounded by mountains, creeks, rivers, trees, nooks, and crannies. Today, scientists have correlated this description with the two hemispheres of the brain, along with the different layers which surrounded it. Although this text has camouflaged the supramental consciousness so beautifully, the discerning and enlightened can pick up the similarities. The barrier between you and the sublime experience is your own mind and the quality of awareness it generates. You are the victim or the victor of your own mind. The same mind which causes distraction, dissipation, turmoil, insecurity, delusion, hatred, anger, fear, panic, dread, can create courage, stability, confidence, security, love, one pointedness, and calmness within you. External circumstances are not at all responsible for the quality of your experience. That depends entirely on what is stored within you in the different layers of your mind. It is not the spouse or the job, the home or the children, the riches or poverty, health or sickness, gain or loss that determine your happiness or despair. It is simply the quality of your mind that generates what you experience. Sukha Simulam Dharma. The secret, therefore, lies in harnessing of the mind. Okay, actually, Chanakya disagrees with this because he will say, he has said, Sukhasya mulam dharma, dharmasya mulam artha. So, money does matter, but indirectly. It's not that money doesn't matter at all. So, this is why it's more for sannyasis, I guess. The secret, therefore, lies in harnessing the mind through the practice of dharana and steering it onto the path of transcendental knowledge. However, a word of caution is also necessary at this point so that sadhakas are not misled by the idea that paravidya or transcendental knowledge can be achieved so easily. One will have to qualify for it, just as one must qualify for aparavidya or material knowledge. As paravidya is more profound than aparavidya, it is natural that the preparations required to receive it will have to be more intense and the examination more demanding and difficult. A quick comparison between the faculties and qualities required for attaining apara and paravidya reveals that for apara or material knowledge, greater emphasis is laid on the intellect, whereas for para or transcendental knowledge, it is intuition or pragya that has to be touched. More than that, it is startling to learn that for transcendental experience, one has to learn everything that one has learned while qualifying for apara or material knowledge. Apara is acquired knowledge which is brought in or borrowed from outside, and para is innate knowledge which unfolds from within. Apara is the realm of the head, which is the domain of logic, and para, that of the heart, which is the seat of experience. Transformation occurs only through experience and not by discussion and debate. Thus, it would be correct to surmise that you have to pay greater attention to the heart in order to attain transcendental knowledge. You will have to cherish and nurture the qualities of childlike innocence, spontaneity in action, purity of feeling, faultless honesty, positive outlook, and cheerful disposition, and side by side, develop the ability to separate the real from the unreal. Then, whatever you think, speak, or do will come from the heart and not the head. Paravidya can be revealed only to the sadhaka in whom faith is alive and compassion has blossomed and borne fruit. If the tenderness of compassion and the cool fragrance of shraddha and bhakti are absent, Paravidya can be revealed only to the sadhaka in whom faith is alive and compassion has blossomed and borne fruit. If the tenderness of compassion and the cool fragrance of shraddha and bhakti are absent, the sadhaka will burn himself out by brilliance of that knowledge. The qualities of the intellect are too gross to handle. The qualities of the intellect are too gross to handle that kind of brilliance. So, in order to manifest brilliance, the sadhaka requires softness and subtlety, not rigidity and crudity. Okay, in order to manifest, in order to manifest brilliance, the sadhaka requires softness and subtlety, not rigidity and crudity. Receptivity and openness of heart will also enable the sadhaka to live in harmony with that transcendental experience so that he can become an indivisible part of its homogeneity and experience the everlasting bliss of Bhairava. This is where the introduction ends. Oh, what a journey. This is just the introduction. Wow. We read this entire section in less than 24 hours, guys. This was fun. Okay, let me check some comments and then we'll end the live stream. In recent Sai vid, he advocated for birth-based Varna, or I'm mistaken. I don't know. Mama Shakuni, Varna is after all practiced in families who believe in practicing hereditary jobs. J Sai was talking about that, not really exerting the population to do that. Yeah. That's not the reason. That's about 1 year old. Yeah. In hereditary professions, especially religious professions, I have no problem. पुरोहित के बच्चे को पुरोहित बनने दो, उसका generational उनका wisdom है, ठीक है. मगर other than that, it's absolutely useless. Also, their fertility rate is much more than the rest. He was amazed by the dedication to save the rituals. Yeah, exactly. I have no problem with that. Though a Bengali revolutionary turned sannyasin of Barishal wrote such text long before Karpatri Swami in Bengali, Swami Pragyananda Saraswati. Well, Karpatri Maharaj wrote one of the best books refuting Western political theories from Hindu Shastra perspective. Yes, they were defending supposedly any distortion of our scriptures. Ram Rajya Parishad. Yes. Hindu Mahasabha before 47. Right. Also, they tried to claim that they are the... Okay. Okay, then. Thanks for joining the short live stream, guys. We finished it in 1 hour. I'm 99% sure that I'm doing a Brahma Puran live stream at 12 a.m. today, okay? Good night, guys. And before that, as usual, my request: check out my arrangement of the this nice stotram, and then go offline. Good night. Thanks for joining.
श्रवरूढं महाभीमं गुणाद्रष्टाङ्गरप्रदम् अस्य युक्तं त्रिनेत्रं च कपालकर्णिकाकराम् मुक्तकेशीं ललज्ज्यः पिबन्तीं रुधिरं चतुर्बाहु समायुक्तं वराभयकरं स्मरेत् चतुर्बाहु समायुक्तं वराभयकरं स्मरेत् काली काली महा